But I feel like this one's a bit harder to admit that you were wrong. It's one thing if you know you're wrong, you know it, and you're just like, I can't live about it. There is no way. But in those instances where you're like, you ever have an argument with somebody and they just are like on it. They are right. They are not backing down. Hello, everyone. I'm Erica.
And I'm Akilah.
Welcome to HeartsChat. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of HeartsChat. We are continuing our series on the 5 languages of apology. But before we get into that, we want to do our check-ins as always. So
what's going on with you, Erica?
Really just the renovations at the house. So just about done with that. It's been a long road, but it's better to just go ahead and take care of that big stuff, do it right, and then we can move on to the fun stuff like decorating, things like that. So I would say probably by summer, everything will be done. Hopefully way before that, but for sure by summer, it should all be done. So excited.
Oh, I understand about home improvement. So.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I know. I know you do.
So I'm glad that it's moving along nicely.
Thank you. What's going on with you?
With me, just as always, hanging in there, working all the time. I'm trying to think. I don't think, I don't think I've been able to talk about it because we haven't done episodes in a while.
Mm-hmm.
My sister had twins.
Oh, yes. You didn't get to tell anybody about that.
I didn't even talk about that. That was one of the biggest things that happened over the past few months. I became an aunt to 2 awesome identical twin boys. They are so funny, though. The faces they give, they look just like my sisters, so I'm just laughing when they give those faces to her because she's usually the one giving faces to everybody else.
Oh my God. They are so cute. They're so adorable.
Thank you. But it's been fun. I don't think we haven't been around babies in a long time. So for me, like feeding them and all that stuff, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. That's our life right now. We're living in that auntie life.
Exactly. You're so right. Love it.
A lot of fun to be an aunt. So
I agree.
All right. Well, moving on with our topic tonight, we are talking about apology language 2, which is accepting responsibility.
Yes. And as a reminder, we did a previous episode on the first apology language, number 1, which was expressing regret, and that this is written by the same person, Gary Chapman, who does the 5 love languages.
All right. So let's get into number 2. So apology language 2, accepting responsibility. An example of that is admitting I was wrong. Saying I was wrong, admitting you were wrong, admitting what you did, admitting you're wrong. That's it. Now, if you want to compare this one to number 1, in my opinion, I feel like this one's a little bit harder. But, it might not. Some people, it might not be. It's one thing if you know you're wrong, you know it. And you're just like, I can't live about it. There is no way. But in those instances where you're like, you ever have an argument with somebody and they just are like on it. They are right. They are not backing down. They're not letting up. Imagine that person having to step back and be like, I was wrong. Like, that is difficult. When you have made all this chatter, all this drama, everything else.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you had to humble yourself and be like, okay, I was wrong.
Erica, that is so right. The first one is really like, I'm sorry. And this one is like, you literally have to put your pride, your ego aside to say, you know what? I did this.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. I was wrong. And that's hard for a lot of people to do, especially like you said, if you are going on and on and on about being right.
Yeah.
But, if you step back and then truly realize that you were wrong and then come back to that person, you're going to gain so much respect from the person you apologize to. Mm-hmm. Because all of us know how hard it is to apologize in general, but to admit fault after saying you were right, I mean, that's a big step for a lot of people.
Yeah, really big step. I know, it really helps to soften people when you can, look them in the eye face to face and be like, I was wrong. I mean, and we talk about this all the time too, even letters, just however you can get that across, that admitting you were wrong. Either way, it's hard, whether you write it to somebody or you're on the phone or you're, in person, face to face. It's definitely a very vulnerable thing to do. And I think that's why apologies are so hard to do. But like we said before, it's really the key in maintaining these healthy relationships, because I can only imagine, how good it feels to get that. I mean, I do know how good it feels, to receive an apology, but when somebody has really, really, wronged you like that, it feels good to get an apology when somebody admits that they were wrong, And,
absolutely.
And I think, like what you said, when people recognize, like, okay, I've been wrong before, you've been wrong before. So you can kind of relate to that. Like, okay, I've been wrong before. It's like this person is wrong before. I've had to admit that I was wrong. Hopefully, you've had to admit that you were wrong, just like them.
Absolutely.
So it humanizes them. And then you can kind of be like, I know what it's like to be like that. So I can accept that. I'm not going to keep on right. Some people will. And that's, like we talked about, that's the risk.
Yeah.
Some people will just be like, no, I don't accept that. And that could either be, number one, it might not be their apology language, or it could be they just kind of want to stay in that, or they're just not ready. I mean, they're not there yet. Just because you're there ready to give the apology doesn't mean that other person is there with you. So that is the risk.
Absolutely. And I think it's just so important that recognize that, exactly like Erica said, we're all humans. We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. What changes, our reactions to people is when we do something about it, by, instead of just saying, oh, I made a mistake, I'm not even going to acknowledge that I was wrong. Like, that just continues that cycle of that big ego and not having, and stopping the communication. Like, there's no reason why we can't just apologize. We all make mistakes. Like, none of us here are sitting perfect. So we can relate to that and we can accept apology.
Yeah. And I can speak just personally. I feel like it really bothers me when I know that I've done something to somebody or I may have hurt somebody.
I know.
Whether it was intentional or not, that bothers me. So I have to be like, you know what, that wasn't right. I don't ever want to leave somebody with like this bad taste in their mouth about me. Like, I did something and now you're walking away with this bad taste. I don't want that to be your experience, So I will say, I'm sorry about that, or hey, I was wrong about that, or whatever the situation is. I don't have a problem owning up and saying, this was my part in apologizing.
No. And that's just so important. And I agree with you. Like, I get that little sense of guilt, because that's what it sounds like you were saying, like that little sense of, oh man, I don't want to leave on those terms.
Right.
I really have to apologize. Like, I don't want to come off that way.
Right, exactly. And we all know, we talk about it, life is short. And one, you don't want that person, who knows what the situation was or how that person's feeling. You don't want them to feel that way. And then also for you, it does not feel good when, like, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I would say for me, I know it doesn't. And for a lot of people, I would say it can't feel good when you've done something and you're kind of just like, and you feel that guilt and then you don't do anything about it. It can make you feel a lot better when you actually own up and admit you're wrong, for that situation. But I think the other part of that is sometimes we go through life wronging people, and sometimes you may not even know the impact you have on that person. You might not know
that you
hurt them that well, or that you really hurt their feelings, or that they feel slighted by you. So when you have those close relationships, it's also important to have that communication. Like, hey, when you did that, I really didn't like that, or that really hurt. It's important to communicate.
Absolutely, Erica. You're 100% correct, because like we've been talking about, it all comes down to, it's so, so important to communicate, not just happy, but the negative as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like, so many relationships based off pride and ego and not being able to do this. I was wrong.
Absolutely. And I feel like also a lot of friendships, like I feel like this is a big one in friendship, like just taking that accountability. People just stop talking to each other. With romantic relationships, you might brush it off, but you're still in it. But with friends, it's so much easier to just be like, I'm done. Cut you off. That's it.
Yeah. Especially. Yeah. And I think this is also a tough one for parents. With parents.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's not often you see a parent kind of sit down and say, hey, I was wrong. I mean, it does happen. There are parents out there that will
Absolutely.
do it. But I don't think it's not as common, than like with friendships and more relationships with your significant other.
Oh, I have to agree on that one, especially I find when it's parents and young children. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of parents who do apologize, which is such amazing, because then it also shows the child that, oh, wow, okay, mom and dad do kind of, understand and respect my feelings and all of these things and can admit when they're wrong versus blaming the child all the time. So, I mean, it's so, so important. Great. That's an awesome job bringing that up, Erica, because that is really, really important in parenting.
Yeah, and it's such a teachable moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And expect your children to grow up, and that as a child, that's such a big part. Like we said before, when you have siblings, tell your siblings, I'm sorry, and admit I was wrong for that. School, when kids get in trouble for whatever with other kids or picking on other kids, stuff like that, you really have to teach how to apologize. When they learn it as a young kid, as a basic fundamental, it helps later in life to be able to have these meaningful, healthy relationships and be able to apologize for the other person and for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Okay, we're going to end it there. That was apology language number 2. And next time, we're going to talk about apology language number 3.
Bye.
Catch you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to HeartsChat today, where we speak from the heart. We hope that you enjoyed our show. Catch us weekly on our YouTube channel and our website, which is HeartsChat.org. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages at HeartsChat.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or topics that you would like for us to talk about, email us at contact@heartschat.org. And for all of your personal relationship questions, visit our website, HeartsChat.org. Click the From Erica's Heart tab to ask your question anonymously, and we will respond within 24 hours.